Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports podcast presented by Underdog. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. It's been an eventful few weeks for Kansas City Current defender Izzy Rodriguez, to say the least. Since June, she signed a new 3-year deal with the Current. She got called up to the U.S. women's national team for the first time, and in her first game scored a goal. Amazing stuff. Plus, she's a big part of the Current's fast start to the NWSL season. KC's in first place, making a strong push for the Supporter Shield as the season resumes on August 1st. We caught up with Rodriguez at the Current's training facility in Riverside and touched on all of these topics and more. After a break, we bring in soccer correspondent Daniel Sperry to get his thoughts on the Current, look ahead to the second half of the season, and we find some time to chat about Sporting KC and the future of interim coach Carrie Zavagnin. But we start by asking Izzy Rodriguez how she's handled the blur of the last few weeks.
For sure. I think, one, I didn't have a lot of time to process it when it was happening, which was probably good. I just got to kind of enjoy the moment. But then we had a couple days off after camp ended, and I think I've really just been able to take in how much of a individual and unique experience it's been, because not a lot of people get to do what I've just done. So I've really just tried to enjoy that moment and take it in. And I mean, the excitement of just being back here another 3 years makes me so happy, and it's relieving to have that done with as well. So all of those things being back to back, it definitely was a lot, but I took in the moment when I had, and now that I've processed it, I'm ready to get back to work.
So with the contract extension, was that something that you went into the season seeking, or how did that come about?
For sure. Kansas City is a place I don't know how anyone could not want to be here. The amount of resources that are here, the culture, the team, the city, the fans, I mean, everything's amazing. So ideally, that's where I would want to stay, and I'm really glad we got to a point that we could agree on, and it was a really easy yes for me to stay here, and for another 3 years is incredible.
You get the call up to the national team. Take us through that. It had been since, I think, 2018 since you played on a U.S. team.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Were you hopeful that it was you were going to get the call again at some time, and just how did it come about?
For sure, it was always a dream to do it again, and especially at the full senior level. I think that's something everybody wants to be a part of, and I feel like the U23s kind of got cut during COVID a bit of just not being able to do those opportunities. So I never knew if it was going to happen, because you never know. Senior national team is something that doesn't come often, but always something I'm striving for. And being here in Kansas City and developing my career here, I think has really helped me and get that opportunity. It's definitely been, 7 years at this point since I put on that crest, and this time was even more special than the first. So it was incredible. What,
when you were developing as a soccer player, to what extent was the national team, a goal for you, or just how much attention did you pay to the national team as a young soccer player?
For sure, a lot, because I started going into youth national team camps at 14, 15, so I feel like they were always some of the women I looked up to and always strived to be. A lot of the women now on the senior team I played with growing up too, so they're always like teammates, but also people now that are role models for me. So growing up, that was a huge thing. I remember always watching the Olympics and the World Cups growing up as well, and then now having that opportunity to be amongst all of those players and get a cap and surprisingly get a goal as well. Again, dream come true, but definitely been doing that since I started with the youth national teams and just building on that dream.
Let's talk about that goal. You were in the right place at the right time. Sure. Is that the best way to describe it?
For sure. I don't find myself in the box too often, so I really just wanted to take advantage of a rebound that was given to me essentially and just put it in the back of the net. And it's funny, a lot of people were like, was that celebration just like a shock? Like you didn't have anything planned? And I'm like, if you've watched any of my goals, that is what I do every single time. It's just hands up, because usually it is kind of a shock. Anytime I'm near the goal. But yeah, it was just pure joy. And I think it was nice to really embrace the teammates around me. And I played with Emma Sears in college, and she was the one who took the initial shot. So even to have that moment with her was super special.
And it came off the left foot, too.
Yes.
I mean, how proud of you that you were able to pound one in with the left.
I will say I'm very lucky that it came to my left foot, because I don't know if it would have gone in if it came to my right.
Who did you celebrated in the moment? You had to have some some communication with folks after the game about it. Who did you share the moment with later?
Luckily, my family, I'm from Michigan, so they were able to come to the game in Cincinnati, and I was extremely grateful that was able to happen because I was able to see them afterwards. My mom, I think, cried the entire game. I bet her it was more than 5 times, and she said, I don't even know if I stopped 5 times. But she had a great time. My brother and sister-in-law got to come too, and I think just being able to embrace my mom, my dad, and them was incredible. And I'm super fortunate that it ended up being a game that was kind of close to home. So it was really easy for them to be there. But that was probably the first people. I had a few extended family there as well. And then my phone, it took me a really long time to get through the amount of messages and that I had from people. I'm so grateful. I felt like the luckiest person alive to have all that support.
You grew up in Michigan. Mm-hmm. You went to Ohio State. We'll get to that in a second. But when did soccer enter your life? And you played other sports, did you not, at Salem High?
Yes. Wow, you do your research. I started playing soccer when I was 3. I will say that was just the kids swarmed the ball. I'm pretty sure I scored in the wrong net twice the first time I played. It was just fun with friends at the time. And then I played volleyball growing up, basketball growing up. I did track and field, gymnastics, every sport you can name. Softball I tried, and I think that's a really great thing growing up of doing all those activities. I think it helped me in soccer, and also know that soccer was the avenue I wanted to choose once I got further down the line because I enjoyed it the most. I was better at it than all the other sports as well, but it's been in my life for a really long time, and I'm grateful that I had a lot of friends growing up too who played, so I enjoyed it from a really young age as well.
And you must have gotten into advanced type of play at a young age.
For sure.
Did you?
Yeah, I started playing, travel pretty early, in late elementary, early elementary school, but moved over to ECNL group when I was 10, so that was just kind of ending elementary school, and that travel starts and pretty much takes over. So I think around that age you have to start deciding a bit of where you want to put your time, and that's definitely when I started to focus a bit more on soccer, was heading into middle school. I still played basketball and volleyball for the school aspect, which was nice because I didn't get to play soccer for my high school. So having that school spirit was nice in a different aspect.
Okay. And like I said, Michigander becoming a Buckeye, that doesn't happen.
No, and I get a lot of crap for it, I'll tell you that.
How was the recruiting? How did that go for you?
Yeah, it was really a little different now, but back then I started almost in middle school as well, looking at colleges. Crazy to think that it was that early, but kind of went all over in the Big Ten. I liked being closer to home. I also didn't know too much about how good I was at the time, I guess, so it was just kind of seeing where you wanted to go. I enjoyed going to ID clinics at all these colleges, would get a sweatshirt at everyone I went to as a nice souvenir. But Ohio State was, I think, the first school I went to that everyone after that I started comparing to. It was it felt like home, and I was nothing seems to be ticking any more boxes. It felt like home. It was far enough from home that I didn't feel like I was going to be too close, and wasn't too far that I couldn't have family come most of the time. So it hit all those boxes. It's a great sports school, great education. I also grew up a Michigan State fan, so we both don't like U of M, so at least it was a common enemy.
You were taken, I think, in the 4th round of the draft. Mm-hmm. What was that night like for you? Were you hopeful that you were going to get drafted? Were you confident that was going to happen?
I was very confident. I was in Columbus, actually, because I had my graduation the next day from college. So all my family was at my apartment. It was honestly a crazy day because my power went out, too, during the draft. And this was all, virtual at the time. So, I was oh, my gosh, I'm supposed to be on Zoom right now. It's about to start. What do I do? Luckily, within 30 minutes, I went back on, but I missed the first, couple picks. And I was projected to kind of go first or second round. So I think as it went on, I remember, everyone handles stress differently, and I kind of got a little quiet. I was nervous. My mom's cleaning up my apartment when there's nothing to clean. My dad's, trying to fix dad jobs. Who knows? We're all over the place. And luckily, then, getting into the 4th round, I hadn't even spoken to Kansas City leading up to that. So I truly didn't think I was going to get drafted at this point. And then got a call from Hugh at the time, and he told me that Kansas City was taking me, and it was the most relieving. I started crying. I was just so thankful that a dream was coming true. So.
What did you know about Kansas City when that had happened?
Absolutely nothing. I couldn't have told you one. I had no idea, and then coming here, it was the best thing that could have happened to me was coming to Kansas City and having this city and this culture and this club behind me.
It had never played in a tournament here or anything like that you can remember?
I think there was an ECNL event very early on that I came to here, but again, you play 2 games and it's nowhere near the city actually, so you're not really getting to see it. But this place also feels like home. I'm a Midwestern gal, so I think having a city that's similar to home made me feel like home.
Okay.
For sure.
So I was in my gym the other day, and there was a group of high school soccer players, girls soccer players, and working earnestly. And I thought that's cool that they're in here in the summer doing that. Mm-hmm. And I thought I knew I was coming to talk to you, so I wanted to ask you, what advice would you have for younger soccer players? And this is high school age, so they're in their teens, but even younger. If people have an ambition to play soccer at a high level, what would you tell them?
Couple things. One is there's definitely going to be a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot of events I had to miss out with friends or things that they were able to do doing those extra works that they're doing. So props, they're already getting that done, which is incredible. But also you still got to enjoy it. You got to find time to take a break from soccer, play other sports, do those things, and enjoy the soccer part, because it is a lot of work as well. And it will become your job at some point if you want to have those aspirations. So finding the balance of you got to get the extra work in, but when you do have time to get away from it, get away from it. Okay. For sure.
And let's just talk about this team in this season. It's been such a good first half. I think you're 8 points clear on the table. It's been incredible. What have been some of the keys to the success so far this year?
I think we have just so much chemistry and so much depth on this team that it's been seamless when we rotate people in and out, and when we're bringing in subs and they're changing games for us and we're starting super fast. But we're building on chemistry that we had last year that at the beginning of last year we didn't quite have because it was a lot of new. So that chemistry, I think, is showing on the field when we have these totally different aspects of how we're scoring goals. We're defending way better than we were at the beginning of the season last year too, which I think has been huge. But the success is just that we're all committed front to back and back to front of how we're playing and our game plan and focusing on the game at hand. So not looking too far ahead. I know we want to be at the top at the end of the year, but it doesn't happen unless you go one game at a time.
Take a swing at picking sports this baseball season with Underdog. Playing on their app is as easy as choosing higher or lower on players' stats. Get them right, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Sign up today using promo code KCSTAR to get a gimme pick as a part of your first cash entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you deposit. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
We're back on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports podcast, with Daniel Sperry, the Stars soccer correspondent. Daniel, how you doing?
Doing well, Blair. Always great to chat soccer in Kansas City here.
Yeah, when we just heard from Izzy Rodriguez, the Kansas City current defender. It really enjoyed speaking with her. How about an international goal for her last couple of weeks ago? Her first game for the U.S. women's national team, and she puts one in the back of the net. That had to be a thrill for her.
Yeah, and it's a player too that I think doesn't get a whole lot of recognition league wide and hasn't for the first couple of years of her career. And this year she made a Team of the Month appearance in the NWSL awards, which is kind of voted on by media members for around the league. So clearly people were starting to take attention and pay attention to her game, and she gets the opportunity, gets called up with the national team. They've left back is a place I feel like they've always been trying to fill with players that play other positions. Crystal Dunn being one of those for a really long time. And Izzy's a natural left back and naturally left-footed, and she has fantastic service. She's a great passer. She's good in the attacking phase of the game. And so great for her to end up in a goal. I think, it's kind of funny. A lot of the goals that she scored in the NWSL have been like screamer shots, volleys from outside of the box. She puts a good contact on that one, but gets it in the back of the net, kind of following up a rebound. So just cool to see her, a good player that's well liked, have a moment like that. Especially, I know she's a Michigan girl, but she's a Ohio State grad. So cool to do it in Cincinnati there.
Yeah, she talked about that, and we talked about crossing the border to go to school. That was kind of interesting. Hey, so a lot of action really for current players on on their national teams. We're in this elongated break, right? About 6 weeks. Actually, you and I are recording this on Monday, July 14th. So the Current will play in the championship game of the Teal Cup on Tuesday, 24 hours from now or so. But it has been a part of this international break. So many current players involved in international soccer. So we call it a break. It's not really a break. They're still playing a lot of soccer these days, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And of course you have the Lorena's playing with Brazil right now in the Women's Copa America. They won 2-0 last night in their opening match against a pretty decent Venezuela team. She's got a couple of games there, all on FS1 throughout the next week and a half or so. You can watch their group stage games through with the Brazilian national team. She's out there. You had, of course, Claire Hutton and Michelle Cooper. Michelle Cooper played in all three games sorry, she played in two of the three games. Claire Hutton played in all three games and started two of them. Nichelle Prince got some minutes there for Canada. So, yeah, lots to stay busy outside of the club game for some of these players. But with the Teal Rising Cup, it's interesting. Last year they had the NWSL and Liga MX Femenil tournament, which the Current ended up winning that trophy that year later on in the year. But the kind of provided ways for players during the World Cup or not the World Cup, through like the women's CONCACAF and a couple of other tournaments that were going on. And then right now you have women's Euros going on, which there are no current players in the women's Euro, but plenty of international soccer happening for players on the team. And it will be interesting next year to see what it looks like as the NWSL is going to have a pause in its season from June 1st to June 28th because of the World Cup, FIFA windows, and more. So this is something that we'll probably see here in the future as they do this kind of pause in the scheduling, and it will be interesting to see at some point. This has been talked about on the men's side, but does the NWSL also at some point maybe consider a move to a fall and spring schedule that has been used in MLS, which is what is very commonplace in Europe as well, to play soccer through that time of the year. So it'll be interesting to see because this break feels incredibly long. So it'll be interesting to see how it all how teams come out of this one. And how teams continue to come out of it, and if they eventually just move to a spring or a fall spring soccer calendar.
Right. You raise an interesting point about next year. Of course, the FIFA Men's World Cup coming to the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, and of course, Kansas City is going to be a big part of it. With not only with the 6 games, but with base camps and training sites for what we think are 3 teams, with the Kansas City Currents facilities being part of that. So it's my.
I was going to say 7 of the 16 NWSL teams share facilities that are in markets that will probably be sharing facilities, including stadiums. Some of them share stadiums with the men's team in town. Some of them play in stadiums where the World Cup's actually happening, aka Seattle. So 7 of the 16 markets are all in World Cup markets. So it's going to be. It affects more than just the Current too.
Right, but that's right. It's so the Current's going to have to relocate for that month, or for the time that their facility is being used by a national team. I guess front office folks will work from home. The team itself, I suspect they're building that stadium on the other side of the river, and that's probably where the Current's going to end up training next summer. Would be my guess.
That would be my guess as well, or at least as they work on getting that facility set up for the 2026. They've kind of put that timeline on it, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they end up during that time frame.
Okay. Well, let's and before moving on to the second half of the NWSL season, let's talk a little bit about the event. You mentioned it, the Teal Rising Cup. What of course, the objective is to win it. But what's the value of this for the team? Is it gets to me there's you get some players who don't have a lot of experience, some experience.
Hmm. You do, and especially as what they did in the first game. You see players like Katie Scott and Mary Long starting the game. They're competing right now with the U.S. Under 18s, under 17s, I think. No, not under 17s, under 20s. Sorry, at the youth levels, working and trying to qualify them for World Cups and playing CONCACAF championships. I mean, this is more international experience for them. Um, Minutes on the field. Some players too that, let's say another injury happens, right? Like, you're two injuries away maybe for some of these players playing that haven't played a whole lot. Same thing with Laurel Ivory in goal. She's been here all year and hadn't played a game until Saturday night. And those are as the backup goalkeeper. Well, if Lorena goes down, she's going to be the one that's going to be called upon. So it's good to have them get that experience. But I think it's also good for the team itself to expose itself to international play, and places like teams play different styles, have different concepts about how they want to do it. The Brazilian teams are very, very physical. They want to have the ball. They're a little bit slower and deliberate, where the NWSL is very end to end, very the basketball influence in the American game, in the very end to end and transitional nature of the game is very prevalent in both the men's and women's side of the game, but more so in the NWSL than maybe the MLS. And you have these Brazilian teams that come in here and they want to play, they want the time on the ball, they're going to be really physical as well. And so it just exposes players to different problems where they have to learn how to come up with different solutions. And those eventually may be solutions that you call upon down the road when you're faced with different tests later on in the season and come playoff time. So it for everybody in terms of getting those young players experience, but also just kind of opening up eyes to different thought processes of how
Yeah.
the game is played.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Current came into this window with an 11-2 record, 8 points clear of second place. They played such good soccer the first half of the season, and so the second half, of course, it's an even split, right? 13 games in the first half, 13 in the second half. You play everybody, you flip the schedule basically. Whoever you played at home in the first half, you play on the road in the second,
Yep.
and things look pretty good for the Current in the second half. What's it going to take for them to keep on this pace and be the regular season champ?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take them to match what Orlando does. I think really Orlando's the one team that I think I would consider a true threat to the Current at the moment, whether that is for in larger picture for the NWSL championship, but also in terms of catching the Current. I think they're probably the only team that has the play style and the firepower to keep up pace. And so if you're the Current, you're 8 points clear. You just got to match what they're doing in terms of results. And now, obviously, you want to get to a point where, in terms of form, you're peaking towards the playoff time. So you're firing on all cylinders. I think Flacco did a really good job of that last year, because I think last year they came out of this break slow and lost a lot of ground on Orlando. Before getting back in, ended up fourth. They're well clear of anyone else in the table below them, but they kind of lost some ground in terms of the teams around them. Now they've built a cushion, but I don't think that means you take the foot off the gas in any way, shape, or form if you're them, and I don't think they will. That's just not how Vlaco has drilled this team. That's not the culture of this team. So I think it's just going to be more of the same. And I think the one thing that the Current do so well is that they are in control of the game, whether or not they have the ball. And they can lull teams into thinking they're in control of the game with the ball. And in reality, the Current are dictating where they want the other team to put the ball at every single second, with how they press, their triggers, the traps that they set. I mean, it is a well thought out and well oiled machine that runs in terms of dominance, where there'll be stretches in the there's a 30-minute stretch in the second half when the Current are winning 2-0, that the opponent team has the ball for 80% of the time and they don't even take a shot because they can't get into the defensive third. I mean, that's the suffocating control that this Current team can impose on others is what makes them so good. So as long as they can keep doing that, the goals can come. The defense is stout enough that they'll as long as they can really, their one key weakness right now is the fact that they give up goals on set pieces relatively regularly. And so that might be the concern there for them going forward, but like every other facet of the game, they are incredibly in control. And as long as they even come close to what they saw in the first half, they should end up with the supporter shield, because that 8 point cushion is a big cushion in the NWSL.
It is. That's a pretty wide margin. So you feel pretty good, barring an injury or two to key players, that they'll finish this off.
Yeah, it just feels that way, or a significant downturn in form. And in reality, I think the only time that we've ever seen downturns in form has been when there's been like injury en masse from this team. And even then, they lost to Bina for the last half of that first half, and they didn't really look like they lost a step. They won every single game without her. So not in the way that they don't need her, but Lola Bonta herself too missed 3 or 4 games down that stretch, and they didn't. It sounds weird, but they didn't look like they missed their captain and their most influential midfielder. And that's not even it's not like a knock towards Low. That's just how deep the team is and how well coached and drilled the rest of the group is, that they can step in and there's really no drop off. And I think that's what just makes them such a good team, is that they have faced some very severe injuries with Alana Cook, with Dabinia. Temwa has not really been healthy for the entirety of the first half, and they're 8 points clear. So it would take a real shock for them to not end up with the supporters shield at the end of the regular season.
You mentioned Lo Labonta. Let's make sure that we recognize her first U.S. Women's National Team appearance. How cool is that for her?
It's good. It's great. And I know there's such a drive in soccer about the next, who's next. For years, they were questioning who's next for Ronaldo and Messi on the men's side, and Mbappe steps in, and now they're like, okay, this other 16-year-old kid, he's next. Like, and even that happens in the women's game too. I mean, I know going into the 23 World Cup, everyone was like begging for more Sophia Smith, more Trinity Rodman, more Mallory Swanson. That was who was next, and now we're almost seeing this kind of who's next thing. And then there's Lola Bonta, who's been around for a really long time, has been very under the radar about what she's done, but she does it at such a high level. And you have a coach in Emma Hayes that I think is really willing to see the value in players like Lowe, that not only have the game side of it, but they are locker room players. Like, she's a locker room boost to have in there, because she has such a positive attitude and energy, but she is a really hardworking attitude and energy, and it's a good example to have in a young group like the U.S. Women's National Team is. And someone that she fights for everything at every moment of the game, against in the match, in the practice. And I think those are just kind of mentalities that Emma Hayes sees and wants around a young group that's still kind of getting ready to emerge as maybe another powerful group in the women's soccer world. And Lola Bonta being part of that would be pretty freaking awesome, I think.
So happy for Lo. Okay, Daniel, you also cover Sporting KC. We can't let you go without a couple of Sporting KC thoughts. I think I've got this right. Maybe 6-4 under Carrie Zavagnin, who replaced Peter Vermees in the first month and a half of the season, coming off a loss to the Seattle Sounders, but not out of the playoff chase. First of all, how do you feel about the progress this team has made under Carrie Zavagnin? And then how about just another thought on his future? Will they take the interim tag off, or will they look outside the organization for a head coach?
Yeah, I think first off, I think the job he's done has been really good. There have been maybe forced experience for some young players, like Jansen Miller is a draft pick. He's turned out to be a very, very good defender. Jacob Bartlett is a 19-year-old guy who was playing for Notre Dame just a year ago. was worried about enrolling in classes at Notre Dame, and now all of a sudden he makes his debut, gets a yellow card hacking down Messi in his pro debut, and the guy started majority of the games as the defensive midfielder for Sporting. In goal, you have John Polskamp, young guy who's really started to emerge over the last 10, 12 games as a premium shot stopper in the league. And so there are players on this team that have taken the next step and really stepped up and kind of grown and been given space to grow and grow from mistakes at times in their early career. And I think they're reaping the benefits of that later on as this team gets closer and closer into that playoff range. But I also think that there are some like roster limitations to where this team can go. Without a legitimate right back at the moment, they don't really feel like they have that. They probably need another player in the midfield. They probably could use another center back or two, maybe. There's a lot of players that have contracts up at the end of the year, and I'm sure there'll be a fair amount that won't be here come next year in that group. However, I think Carey's done a really good job of getting the most or close to the most out of this current group as you can. At any point, if you say we're going to rebuild and go with young players and we're going to give them all of this time to develop and this patience, and you're pushing for a playoff spot, that's a pretty, you feel good about the process that you've undergone. And so whether that means that Carey gets the full-time job or not, I think there's still 11, 12 games left on the calendar for them to kind of play out where this group is going to end up. And I'd like to kind of I'd like to see those play out before I feel like he should or should not get the job in any way, shape, or form. And I think Sporting would be kind of foolish to not see what else is out there in terms of other opportunities, other managers, and stuff like that. But I think Carey's given himself a really good account of it so far. And I think, if things continue in the right way for them, I could see, if he makes the playoffs with this group, and maybe even really makes it competitive in that initial 3-game series and how MLS has been doing playoffs this year, I could see him having a serious shot at getting the interim tag removed, just because of the knowledge, the respect that he has amongst the players too. I mean, he's really won over that locker room and done a really good job. Some of the in-game adjustments that he makes is phenomenal, which is why you see this team able to come from behind as much as it does. And so I think there's a real testament to his tactical acumen and his ability to read the game and adjust. So it'll be interesting to see how things continue to develop for him too as a coach over the remaining 11, 12 games on this regular season schedule.
I really think a playoff spot would solidify his chances to remove the interim tag. Okay, Daniel Sperry covers soccer for the Kansas City Star. Always great catching up with you, Daniel.
Great to chat as always, Blair.
That'll do it for this edition of SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports podcast presented by Underdog. Big thanks to current defender Izzy Rodriguez for sharing her thoughts of the past few weeks, and to current Vice President of Communications Danny Welniak for making things happen. Tip of the cap to the Star's Daniel Sperry for sharing his soccer insights, and thanks to Randy Mason and Monty Davis for producing the show, and to our editors Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen. We'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in and around Kansas City.